Hey friends, John Bush here. I wanted to do a little walk and talk video after I heard the latest out of the Biden administration, the federal government. And in case you hadn't heard, it looks like the feds, the Biden administration, are going to be requiring all employers that have over 100 employees that they mandate the COVID jab. And if they don't, then they're going to be fined $14,000 per incidence. I don't know if that's per person, per day, what the deal is. So this is a really big deal, and everyone shouldn't take this lightly, especially if you work for an employer that has more than 100 employees. Then this really affects you big time. Man, I've been banging on this conspiratorial view of history, talking about the authoritarian nature of government, and as an anarchist, that government inherently is antithetical to individual liberty. But just in general, even if you're not an anarchist, surely you don't prefer to have this authoritarian, technocratic, dystopian kind of authoritarianism. And I know in the United States, which is where I'm at, but it's a global audience, in the West, in many countries, there's this semblance of normalcy, and it's not like a hardcore fascist dictatorship like it is in some areas, or communist dictatorship like it is. But, you know, there's that expression, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those that falsely believe they are free. And the type of tyranny that we have in the West, in the United States of America, Great Britain, it's more sophisticated because it's like this Fabian socialism, like this slow gradualism. And there's so much manipulation and deceit. And with COVID, everything's just been radically accelerated. And now we have this public health nightmare scenario. So I just kind of want to share some of my thoughts and some strategies and solutions. And if you've been following me for a while, you know I've been banging on this for a long time. But things are different now, because it always used to be this far off kind of deal, like the New World Order, their plans and their goals, and in the future they want to do A, B, and C. But now here we are with COVID, the perfect tool, the perfect Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. 9/11 was a big acceleration of tyranny and surveillance. And now COVID-19 has been a huge acceleration of tyranny, control, and surveillance. And the jab really has a whole lot to do with it. And for me, I think it's something, I don't know what the hell is going on with this jab, but I began to see early on in the pandemic, I don't know, maybe halfway through, like, wow, even before the jab was available through Operation Warp Speed, I came to realize, like, this is all a big marketing campaign for the fucking jab. And, you know, a big part of it, too, isn't just taking of the jab, it's the vaccine passport and the digital certificates and the tracking and surveillance of citizens and people. It's intense. So what can we do about it? Well, I hope that you've already been doing things about it for quite some time, because it's becoming increasingly clear that the only way forward for people that value freedom and bodily autonomy is to opt out, is to get the heck out of the cities, the smart cities where it's easy to carry out this agenda, is to move away from a big corporate job, right? And return to an older way of doing things. A thing that's more local, more traditional, but still honoring the beauty and wonder and innovation that comes from technology, right? Like, we need to get out of these single family home mega cities that aren't they're not very natural of a thing, what they've become. And we need to get out into the country, in the rural areas. That's a huge, big picture kind of thing. There's all sorts of things we can do. I mean, I guess getting out of the city, going back to our roots, building intentional communities, and entrepreneurship, working for like-minded companies, building our own counter economy. Those are a couple things to riff on. You know, the funny thing is that the jab doesn't even really seem to be effective, and there's a lot of information out there that, and theories, maybe fact, that it's the vaccine that's driving these variants and mutations, and it doesn't stop the spread. And it's just like, wow. So yeah, we're going to be hosting a summit of sorts. The tentative dates are November 6th and 7th. Haven't really announced this a whole lot. We're going to be solidifying the place this week, but we'll definitely be announcing it in the coming days, in the coming week. We're going to be doing an intentional community summit. It's all going to be about empowering like-minded people to get off the grid, to get out of the city, to escape the matrix, to come together, building resilient communities so that we can create a better future for our children, our children's children, and on down the line, 7 generations, like old Derek Bros talks about. And we're going to help people to do that. Now, this is something that's been important to me for quite some time. I've been on that kick of trying to build an intentional community, to get out of the city, to buy big acreage. And I'm very excited and happy that we did that. Me and my lovely lady, Rebecca Powers, about 3 or 4 months ago, we purchased 10 acres. That's where I'm at right now, doing this walk and talk. And look, this is going to be our home of our future garden. Laid a big tarp out at the beginning of the summer, and the tarp kills the grass underneath. Now it's all killed. We've got some seed starters going on the front porch, right? And so this is really just where it begins. This is a giant garden. It's a lot of work. I went and got I got 100 little seed starters, this coconut husk, and some good soil, and bought a shelf, put it up on the front porch, and knocked out 100 of those. But as I was buying it, I was like, man, I'm gonna need more than 100 little seed starter plants, because this plot is so damn big. So it forced me to level up and think bigger. So today I just went and bought 500 more of these little psyllium husk or coconut husk seed starter things. So yeah, but I'm doing it, and I want to encourage other people to do it. We just had our first community member, a good friend Nomad Brad, that helps with Berry Botanicals and Live Free Academy. He's out here now. Our goal is to have 8 households, the magic number 8, the freedom cell number, out here. And nothing could be more important at the end of the day than taking control of your life, right? My big vision is to have a confederation of intentional communities that all links up, supports one another, employs one another, works together, trade routes, mutual defense compacts, herbalists, natural health doctors, practitioners that all work together with one another. The counter economy, and we ought to build a counter society. It's beautiful out here. So this is the result of a lot of hard work, and it all started with me believing in myself. And so with the big news today that any company that has more than 100 employees is going to be required to mandate the vaccine, and if they don't, they're going to get fined through OSHA regulations, $14,000 per incident. In light of that big news, let us all make the commitment to ourselves, to one another, that we are going to double down on our efforts, and we are going to commit to live up to the greatness inside of each and every one of us and make some shit happen. Know what I'm saying? We don't need to live this way, man. Everybody's all divided, all ugly, all nasty. A lot of people are earning a living doing something that they don't enjoy, that brings them down, working for employers that they don't relate to, filling the coffers and fulfilling the dreams of somebody else. We need to be working for ourselves. We need to be working with each other. We need to position ourselves so that no one can dangle any carrots above our heads. No one can manipulate us, coerce us into doing things that we wouldn't do otherwise. We need to step into a state of true sovereignty where we're the highest authority in our lives. And in order to do that, we all got to commit to ourselves and each other. We got to rock a strategy and come up with a plan. My strategy for freedom is to help other human beings opt out of institutions they find to be useless, unethical, centralized, opt out, exit and build, exit in every way that we can as we build the alternative institutions. That's my strategy. I hope you'll join with me. That's the strategy of the Freedom Cell Network. Good friend Derek Brose is traveling all across the country right now promoting that strategy on his activation tour. Maybe you could join him at activationtour.org. I was there for the Austin and Dallas stop. 60 people at the first stop, over 80 people at the second stop. Everyone was just vibing and ready and willing to work together. So we got to commit, we got to come up with a strategy, and we got to take massive action and get to work, right? Many of us have been working pretty hard for quite some time, and we're waiting for everyone else to come along with us. So here people are slaving away at this job, J-O-B, just over broke, or this career that doesn't align with their value and their highest purpose. And now, because that's the path that they've chosen to take in their lives, they find themselves in a situation where they're going to be forced to make some really difficult decisions. So I just kind of want to point out that being in that space in the first place where you're subject to other people's whims is not a good place to be. It's inherently not a good place to be, whether there's this crazy COVID tyranny and Joe Biden wanting to control everyone. But because that's the situation we find ourselves in, it just underscores and makes it even more important that we all really take things seriously and we all get very conscious and aware of the situations that we find ourselves in, the places and positions that we put ourselves in. We get really conscious and aware of how we're bought into the system. Big tech, centralized, big bank that we do, Chase Manhattan Banks, your checking account, you know, no encrypted communication whatsoever. 100% of your food is derived from a grocery store that's dependent on centralized, insecure supply chains, right? We got to get real conscious about all that. Write down a list. And we got to slowly but surely start exiting, or at least insulating or protecting ourselves, right? You get 100% of your food that you feed your family with from the grocery store. Go to the farmer's market. Go link up with beef sellers, farms, livestock producers. That's what we do in the Freedom Cell Network. We have a food co-op and a meat share, and we all go in on cows and split it up and get the meat. It's a beautiful thing. You should do that in your community too. Shit's getting real, all right? So a lot of this stuff isn't going to happen overnight, although some of it can. I mean, setting up an alternative social media account like Float or MeWe, that can happen overnight. You can close your bank account pretty quick and set up a local credit union at least. You can set up a cryptocurrency wallet overnight. But moving out of the city, selling your house, exiting your job, that stuff takes a little bit more time and work. So come up with some plans. Come up with some goals. Slowly but surely move the chess pieces into place so you can checkmate your own life and be in control and win the game of life. All right, so this is a big deal. This is hardcore authoritarianism against medical tyranny. It's not like some tax scheme or some anti-gun thing. It's like really, I mean, all that stuff is all hardcore freedoms too. Because if we accept that we own ourselves, the maximum self-ownership, no one ought to be able to take our property. No one ought to be able to deny us self-preservation. But there's just something about the medical tyranny that really irks me. So we just entered a whole nother level of authoritarianism, and there's a yin and a yang. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So let your reaction, instead of just freaking out, getting all overwhelmed, sharing stuff on social media, let your reaction be to take action. Come up with a plan. Commit to change your life. Move out into the country with like-minded people and let's build civilization back new again. Build back better, right? That's the big slogan. Because look, the enemies of liberty, the technocrats, all these crazy psychopaths that want to like that's weird stuff going on where they're just they have such a strong desire to control people. They have a plan and they're committed to that plan, and they've been rolling that plan out for decades and centuries, and the latest iteration of that plan is called the Great Reset. It's this really futuristic, dystopian where like everything's tracked, controlled, surveilled. All life forms and biodiversity on Earth are tracked through complex supercomputers, and everyone has a digital identity certificate, a global digital identity certificate, social credit scores. That's all the plan. That's not some weird conspiracy that you hear about on Infowars.com. That's the real deal, right? And God bless Alex Jones. Motherfucker was so ahead of the curve, like a canary in a coal mine. But that's the future that is in store for you if you don't get active and do something about it now. So let's flip the script and say, all right, you guys can do that over there, and we're going to do this over here. In fact, in that document, that little news piece, terrible piece of propaganda, why would they think this is a good idea? The World Economic Forum, it was in Forbes or some other magazine too, and it was like, the year is 2030, you own nothing, you have no privacy, and you've never been happier. This is total propaganda piece. But towards the end it says, there's some people that rejected it, and they didn't want to go along with the artificial intelligence, and they were frustrated when they lost their jobs to robots. So they moved outside of the city and started little self-recycling communities. And they're like, we're worried about those people, but that's us. That is us. That's what we wanted to do anyway. Now we just have an even bigger reason, a stronger why. So align with that why. Whenever you hear the tyranny, whenever you hear the technocracy, whenever you hear this crazy COVID vaccine mandate stuff, don't let it overwhelm you to a point of inaction. Rather, leverage that and let it be fuel for your fire, the fire that burns in your heart to finally live a life that aligns with your inherent freedom, because we all deserve that, and our children deserve that, and our children's children deserve that. Let them not be raised in a world that doesn't honor bodily autonomy, and that's nightmarish technocracy. I ain't gonna allow it, and I hope you'll join me in creating a better tomorrow. All right, peace.